Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Flight World War II. This seemingly starts as usual flights. We just introduced the crew and passengers. However, within a few minutes, the flight does experience quite a lot of turbulence, so they hit a particular bad weather pocket. It's not unusual. And normally within, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, this should be resolved and you just exit that bad weather, right? However, when they exit, they realize that the problem is quite complex because, first of all, they were in daylight, but suddenly it hits pitch black dark. So within 30 seconds, how does that happen? And also they realize that a lot of the electronic gear on the so let's say for the passengers, they don't have any internet access, they don't have a phone signal. Within the cockpit, we also have the vast majority of the electronic devices and systems are not functioning. So anything that worked as analog, so maybe light switches in the airplane, maybe the body switch lights and the airplane, that is fine, but anything else is not working. However, they do have a working radar, which is good because at least they know and they know that whether there's an airplane or other flying object in the area, in the vicinity. Now they're also quite shocked that to see that there is no traffic in the area. Well, normally within your radar system, you will see planes or maybe commercial, maybe non-commercial. You'll probably see some jets and so on, maybe a helicopter. So this sort of nothing, zilch, is quite unusual. But then they don't want to panic and worry any of the passengers. So the passengers do get their service. So for instance, we have quite a chatty flight attendant who talks to two people here. So these are historians that are interested in the Second World War, and they're going to a convention in London. We also have an elderly gentleman who chats to the stewardess. Now, in the cockpit, there is quite a complex situation unfolding because, of course, they have no contact with ground. They have no contact at all with air traffic control, ATC. But at least they have a working radar, which is good. And everyone is really puzzled. But then the pilot can't tell you something that they don't know or he doesn't know. They haven't really figured out what's happening. And of course, they can't give information to others. So everyone is quite puzzled as to what is going on. But a lot of people don't take it seriously. So, someone is dozing off or having their dinner. I would probably be in the second category. I wouldn't worry too much. Again, captain looking for signals, nothing, no flying objects in the vicinity, no planes or nothing. They think of maybe trying to radio, maybe they can give like a radio message and see if they can find someone on a certain frequency. They also ditch a little bit below the clouds because this allows them to see the terrain much better. And what they see actually shocks them. They see a war zone, effectively, all these little planes so they're in low altitude, bombing certain places and locations on the ground getting bombarded as well. So they can see certain things. Now, I would also bring your attention to the two historians on board because they are interested in the Second World War. And what they see is very striking. Of course, they don't immediately make the connection, but they're very suspicious. So because we're living in contemporary times, people think that is maybe like flights over the Ukraine, which begs the question of what time frame they're talking about. Is it the recent war or something else? But yeah, it's quite scary. And although no one is at this point attacking them, but they see all this sort of war zone, bombing raids, so on and so forth, different places getting attacked. And now there is a nosy man, so that's a nosy man here, and he's always bombarding the stewardesses with questions about what's happening, where are we, why are we getting, why are there bombs going off on the ground, what's happening. And then he doesn't do this in a civilized manner. He grabs the flight attendant, who of course is not okay. Now, something else happens. Of course, we have the two Second World War experts, the historians, and they see some things. I did mention some fighter jets, but the fighter jets are not modern day fighter jets. They're Messerschmitts and Ju 88 or whatever. So they recognize these as the Nazi planes. So, because of course they're expert in the area, they would recognize the type of planes, and they're very shocked as to why these kind of planes could be airborne. This is 60, 70 years after the war, Second World War, and how would these planes be flying? So they realize what is happening, and although it's quite incredible and hard to believe, but they do point to a possible time travel, because of course we did mention the void that the plane went into, and it suddenly clicks for them that these airplanes should not be flying. They belong to 60, 70 years ago. Maybe we time traveled. So they so they come into the cockpit with force, so barge into it. But now he's quite a relaxed pilot, I would say, because these people should have been arrested trying to get into the cockpit and so on. Anyway, they say some stuff to him. They say that we might be able to help because we know about the Second World War, the geography, the important events, and the terrain and so on and so forth. And we think we went past the bombing of Saint-Nazaire. So one of the bombings, I think it was in, sort of midway through the Second World War, and that these aircrafts, the jets, are not. They shouldn't be flying now. They're Nazi planes. Such a long time has passed, and you probably find them in a museum, but not really flying anymore. And they say we might have to time travel, because now the pilot, of course, has studied mathematics to get this far, and physics, so he doesn't believe them and says, well, go and sit down. I understand you're trying to help and so on, but he wasn't buying it. So they forced them out of the cockpit. I think this should have led them to get arrested, but under the circumstances and the fact that they're just trying to help, perhaps that was forgiven. Anyway, and also this nosy man is there, so he's always there to eavesdrop, listen to conversations, and cause more trouble. So he does hear the conversation that the fighter jets shouldn't be there, they don't belong to this era, and also their theory also explains why they don't have any radio signal, why they don't have any. There's no traffic, of course, because there's no commercial flights traversing the sort of the zones, because it's a war zone, and also there aren't that many radio towers at that point, because we're talking about 60, 70 years ago. So there wasn't a lot of certainly there wouldn't be air traffic control under these circumstances, but also for that time. So they do say that you mustn't have had any signal, any radio contact with the ATC and so on. And yeah, it does resonate with the pilot, and he first thinks that they have something to do with it. Of course, they don't. Anyway, he sends them back to their seats, and yeah. So here we have this nosy guy as well. He grabs the flight attendant, and that really annoys her, and she threatens him. But of course, the passengers do have a point. And notice that this nosy man is very close to these two guys, so Bennett and Dale, the historians. And they want to use their knowledge about the Second World War to maybe figure out a map. Because if it's Saint-Nazaire is bombing, so that would put it in a certain area in France, so maybe that could help. And they have a history book with them and some maps and stuff, so maybe they could have some information about where they are, and with some available maps they could then maybe help the pilots with orientation and finding a safe place to land and so on. They again want to try the radio now. So they're just doing their own thing, and again, this is not accurate. So both pilots can't be steering at the same time, apparently. Now, again, they're trying the radio to see if they on the aerial transmission, if they can find, and radio transmission, if they can find anyone in the vicinity, anyone at all who can help with orientation. They don't know where they are. So they were last time they checked, they were over the Atlantic, but now Bennett says that they're over France. So how did that happen? Now, what else? Yeah, so they're trying to make contact, and so far, no success. However, they do manage to, so they manage to chat with someone who has a British accent, a British person. And his name is Nigel Sheffield, and his role is to effectively, monitor these aerial transmissions and radio transmissions, and his position is classified. Now, first of all, of course, Nigel is not going to believe, right? He's not going to believe that there's time travel and so on and so forth. He's not going to buy that. And he thinks that it's a group of kids, or maybe a group of people just acting. Yeah, so that's Nigel there. He's on the ground, and he doesn't believe the story, of course. And they check the date, and he says it's 1942 or something like that. And of course, these guys are in 2015 to 20. I don't know the exact date. And of course, no one believes that. And of course, they think it's a hoax. Nigel thinks it's a hoax. And so we have Bennett here. Bennett says,
We've just passed over Rennes in the northwest of France. Based on the timing since the bombing, it's our best guess. We're relatively certain that we flew through the bombing of Saint-Nazaire, where the RMS Lancastria was attacked and sunk.
So he gives information about the RMS Lancastria that was sunk, and then because they're looking at this from 60, 70 years in advance, and they're experts in the topic, so they know exactly when the Lancastria was sunk, who was killed. And of course, to them, to Nigel and his colleagues on the ground who are in a different time zone, that's news, because they don't know about that. It hasn't happened yet. So of course, our friends in the airplane have advantage of being from the future. They had 60, 70 years in the future. They know exactly what happened. Now, of course, then...
and we flew through a storm or something, and now we're here. This is high. Look, forget about that.
Yeah, so again, Nigel is not going to accept that very easily, and he thinks, they give so much intel and so on about the Lancastria and so on, but he doesn't want to believe it. Now, he says, okay, I'm going to talk to my superior.
God help me.
And give the information, intelligence they had about Lancastria being sunk. And he, of course, his superior then radios the front to see if that has happened, and they can confirm that. And he does say, come back to me in about 30 minutes, but then this group don't have a lot of time. 30 minutes for them is a lot. They say just come back in about 5 minutes because we don't have a lot of fuel left and we need to find a landing spot and so on. But again, Nigel doesn't really buy that they're a commercial airline in distress. He thinks that it's a group of kids or maybe just a group of people playing a prank and poking fun. But soon, with the amount of information and intelligence they give him, it makes more sense and he starts to believe them. Now, here again, we have the nosy man. He looks in the books and the stuff the historians had, and it clicks for him as well that we probably have time traveled. And he had earlier eavesdrops into the conversation, and had heard some things about time travel, the Second World War.
I have information that this flight crew is neglected to kill us.
So anyway, he does try to stir up some trouble in the cabin.
Sir, I'm gonna need you to keep your hands off of me. And I know how this is gonna sound.
Anyway, he does say that it seems that we time travel, we're in the Second World War, and we should take the aeroplane and try to find Hitler and kill him. Which is not a bad idea at all, but would prevent a lot of deaths and so on. But it's not very credible. Now, a lot of people think that he's drunk and he's just had too much whiskey, maybe, and they try to restrain him. Yeah, so there's there's like a group of officers here. Yes, you have the officers. And they take charge of the situation. Yeah. So although he means well, but you can't just hijack the airplane. Now, so these guys take charge and they say, what you're trying to do is an act of terrorism, and you can't hijack the plane, and we'll stop you. And of course, these are army level trained officers, and they engage this. A fight breaks out, of course, and so the air hostess is able to knock out a few of them with her extinguisher and so on. Yeah, and they do come under control eventually. Yes. Whoa. Okay. So how all this is happening, so then we go back to the cockpit and. So then we have another conversation between the pilot, co-pilot, and Dale and Bennett. They're trying to figure out where they are.
Middle France.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of France.
Our course, we should be able to find some friendlies or a safe landing place soon.
Yeah, so they want to find somewhere to land. They're in the middle of France. So France was an ally of the UK and America. So. Maybe they could find somewhere to land, and that makes sense.
On the same page about something, Nigel.
And on the same time, the message comes back from Nigel. He's the radio officer on the ground who's chatting to them all this time, and the intel they know about the Lancaster is accurate because, of course, now we have the assistance of the history professors, and they know a lot about the topic. So, of course, the intelligence is going to be... It's not intelligence to them. To them, it's their subject. But to these guys who are at the front 60, 70 years ago, that is definitely intelligence. Now...
we're near Bayern. Yes, we can tell.
They're near
Just
Bayern.
past Rennes not too long ago.
Again, they're sort of going towards the Swiss border.
Line.
You're nearing the German border then.
German border.
What's your current airspeed?
400 knots.
400 knots, and they're doing fine. Again, now it'll tell this information and intelligence from the ground that there is in the German transmissions, there's a talk of a very large aeroplane. So they think it might be from the Allies, so they want to attack it, of course. There you go. So the aeroplanes, the German aeroplanes, the fighter jets, don't know if fighter jet is the right term for them. I don't know if they're a jet, but they're a fighter plane. The fighter plane appear. They do see them on their radar, of course, and this is where it becomes a fantasy, of course, because you don't get shot at as a commercial aeroplane by a fighter jet, even if it's not a modern fighter jet, a fighter plane. So they're getting shot at left, right, and center, but nothing happens. So again, any of these would put them in a lot of jeopardy, in a lot of trouble. But of course, the director makes sure that nothing serious happens. Yeah, so we just move on from this. There's one. So what they have to do is to increase the altitude. So they put a lot of pressure on the fuselage because again, and at some point they have to ditch them by going down, ascending very fast. And again, this is in the fantasy area because you're going down with that level of G, so maybe G of 4 or 5 or something. And, it would have a massive impact on the fuselage of regular commercial flights. Of course, the fighter jets are trained for that and they're designed for that as well. But this amount of, sudden acceleration and sudden ditching is not something the commercial flights are designed for. But again, it's just a story, so let's not get hung up in it too much. Anyway, they managed to ditch the Germans. They do get shot at, and they do have injuries. And then a few people get blown out of the plane. What else? The co-pilot gets shot. They don't want to be anywhere near the German fighter planes, do they? And then what else happens? The air hostess knows some first aid, and she says you just need a few stitches. It's nothing serious, and of course she takes charge of the pilot seats. Okay, now they also do realize that something has happened, so they want explanations. They want an explanation, of course. They have left these poor passengers in the dark for such a long time, maybe an hour, and they're getting shot at, and they're seeing all this happening, and sudden ascension and sudden ditching of the plane, and no one is telling them anything about what is happening. And suddenly the pilot does appear, and he does chat to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your captain, William Strong.
William Strong.
And it's time I tell you the truth.
Yes, it's very much time. You should have communicated a long time ago.
We're on the move, sir.
Not you. We need you to stay put. Any news from our friends?
Not much. Last I checked, they're in a dogfight with the Jerrys.
Yeah, so he's trying to find a safe landing place for them, and he's talking to his superior. But of course, the last time he checked, they were in a dogfight with the Jerrys.
I fear they. I'll keep trying, sir.
If you manage to make contact, you'll have to gather information about their radar.
Yeah, so his superior just wants to know if there's any information they can share about their radar, because they have explained what a radar is, and and it was actually Bennett who explained what a radar is. So at that point, they are working on radar. The British are working on radar, but it's not as developed as the radar these guys carry on their commercial flight. Anyway, the captain does inform them that the landing gear is damaged because of the shooting, and he asks for anyone who can help. So 2 people can help. These are a handyman and also Teresa, who's an engineer. And they go down, so they want to inspect the landing gear.
No puncture. That's good.
Captain, look this. Maybe we can splice.
Yeah, so they spend some time on this and they manage to fix it. And of course, at the same time, they're talking to the co-pilot, who seems to be quite okay, even though he was shot at, so he's fine. And poor Hector does hang from this landing gear, but manages to repair it. So himself and Teresa, the engineer, he does survive anyway. And they come up to the cabin, and everyone claps for them. Of course, they're heroes. Then we have another interaction with Nigel.
At least now we know what our radio transmission range is.
What's your current location?
We are just about the Swiss border. We have about 80 minutes of flying left, which is not a lot of time to figure things out.
Earlier, you mentioned something about
A weather anomaly?
Yeah, so he's trying to get to the bottom of how they got here, and it's something to do with the weather anomaly, that void they went into that brought them back in time by 60, 70 years.
Before we got displaced, we went through the center of a storm, the likes of which I've never seen. Black clouds and some kind of a blue energy in the center.
Yeah, so he's describing the void, and the void. So the void is what brought them here, effectively.
Right. I'll investigate.
Now, the most pressing matter at the moment, of course, is your proximity to German airspace.
I suggest you stay on course.
I'm trying to find a potential landing spot for you.
Yeah, so good old Nigel is trying to help them with a safe landing spot and so on.
And my commanding officer
Officer is insisting that I get more information from you about this radar of yours.
What do you want to know, Nigel?
Well,
And yes, it's actually later, I think it's Bennett who will tell them about that.
Captain, may I?
There you go. So history professor knows more about a radar than the
Sir,
pilots.
this is Bennett. The radar is in a
nose of the plane and gives off radio waves to determine the objects in the area. In the cockpit, there's a console that looks like a bullseye, and it sweeps the area for signals and puts blips on the screen and indicating our distance. That's about it.
Yeah, so that's a history professor is giving information about a radar. Good for him that he knows so much. Anyway, it seems that anytime they chat with Nigel, they have to lower the altitude because of the range of the radar, because the radar is centralized to them, and they pick up, they're able to sort of communicate and also chat on the radio to Nigel, so they had to lower their altitude. But lowering the altitude means that they can be, their conversation can be heard by the Germans, and the fighter planes are not leaving them alone, so they're getting shot at again. Again, they ditch the plane, I think. Yes, they have to ditch the plane. So this amount of trauma on the fuselage is not very, I don't think it's not very durable. And even they get attacked by a surface-to-air missile. So a lot is going on. This airplane is just hanging in there. It's not giving in. A very well-built commercial airplane. Anyway, they managed to ditch them again, and they know that if they lower the altitude, they risk getting hit by missiles and also getting tracked and traced and followed and chased by the German fighter pilots.
Holy shit, a missile!
Can we go into fantasy mode, because none of this is possible. Like, any of these assaults they had in the past half an hour should have ended their travels, but they're just hanging in there. The aeroplane is doing its best.
Forest in German territory.
You can't miss it.
We'll get it.
Okay, so the idea is that they remove their radar and parachuted down to the Swiss territory so that Nigel and his friends can collect it and use it, of course, because it's for the time it's the highest possible technology available. They come from 60, 70 years in the future, so the most modern radar is still better than what is available in the 1940s.
Godspeed, my friend. Over and out. I need a USB battery. Does anyone have one?
Everyone sticks with the plan, and they they make it parachute and put all their gizmos and technology in there. So there's of course the radar, but also an iPad, and I think they put an iPhone in there as well. And notes to maybe like a support manual, and they threw that down.
Bennett, we're at 10,000 feet. Nigel, we don't have much time. How's the package looking?
I should be here in mere moments.
Just hold on.
So they managed to get the parcel that was sent down to them by parachute, but again, the plane is in peril. Again, they're being attacked by the Germans. After all this, they, I think, find another anomaly. Yes, they find another weather anomaly. But of course, they say goodbye to their friend Nigel, because he's been on the ground and supporting them with a safe landing place. And also they got the radar to him because he was in the Swiss area, so he wasn't very far off where they threw the radar.
Ladies and gentlemen, things are going to get bumpy again. I want to thank you for your patience, persistence, and your faith in the last few hours.
And of course, they got the radar down to Nigel, and he's a radio operator, and managed to plug it in somehow. So how did that happen? Let's not get too technical about it. But then he was able to use the radar to give them some instructions as to where they should go and where a safe landing space is.
I'm proud of each and every one of them.
So that sounds like a goodbye note, doesn't it?
That felt like a goodbye.
There you go.
We'll find out in a few minutes.
Anyway, they find another weather anomaly, and this will reverse the spell. So yeah, there you go. They now transferred back to current time, and they safely land in Germany.
Welcome to Berlin.
DXL? What year is it?
I like your sense of humor, Captain. Welcome back.
So he asked, what year is it? Hopefully not 1942 or 1943. And the ATC air traffic controller thinks he's joking, but he's really not joking. Anyway, everything is okay. And
I love Germany.
I think
I'll take care of it. You go.
Yeah, so there's the elderly gentleman. He's still taking his notes and writing stuff. And
it's time to go now.
Time to go.
Oh, just one more moment, Captain. I'm just finishing something up here, okay?
No, this is a very poignant part. He's looking at his notes. The radar system. So who could this old man be? Nigel Sheffield, our friend.
Oh, dreadfully sorry to have kept you waiting.
He's the air traffic controller, our friend, who we spoke to throughout the movie, and he was guiding the flight and supporting them to find a safe landing place. And he's back on the flight now as a old gentleman. I thought this was a very interesting and poignant ending to the film. And overall, I think it's definitely worth a watch. I hope you like it.